Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Roastcast with your boy Six Factions.
I don't think you could be any more nonchalant or less enthusiastic if you try it.
Hey guys! No. Hey guys, Comedy Shorts Gamer here. No, look, I'm just a bit tired. You kept me up until 3 a.m.
You ready for a real 3 a.m.? Oh, calling the fucking boss.
We're
babe.
gonna call the fucking boss baby.
This is how you do an intro, right?
Alright, let's go.
Ayo, and welcome to Callum's Corner. I've had to say this a few times now, but this is a final warning.
Fuck.
Shut up about my head. It is normal. It is a nice head. It does not look like a sodding tic-tac.
Peeking the waveform cunt.
I don't think you realise who you're dealing with here.
I don't think you
6'5".
realize either.
Beast.
Oh my god, we're gonna get a DMCA strike for that. He's gonna have a go at us for taking the piss. Oh well, either way. Welcome to another episode.
Potato, glasses on.
Yeah, the third ever episode of Roastcast, and it's gonna be just as shit as it was before. Oh well.
Yeah. Well, I ate my toast.
Yeah,
And for some reason,
toast and tea. This time we're not filming at my place. We're filming at Sam's Movies' place, where all the dreck comes out.
Get out of my house.
I wish I could.
Alright.
Don't worry about it. I'll be out of here soon enough. As fast as I can. No. Look, alright, so we got a topic for today. The Roastcast has got a topic for the first time. Whoa, I know, right, fellas?
Oh, fuck.
I want to talk about movie adaptations of, books and like comics and video games and shit, because Peter Jackson is doing Mortal Engines, which is a very, very good book series. I enjoyed it. A lot of people might tell me that, it's not fantastic. I'm sure it's not fantastic, but I enjoyed it. It was good. And part of me wants to really enjoy what he's going to come up with, only because it's an adaptation of a book series that I really enjoyed. And I'm not sure if that's how the movie should be. Like, a movie should be able to stand on its own from its original version, and it should be able to work as its own sort of self-contained story.
Well, let's see, because fair enough. I was just thinking of I had to think long and hard just said about my favorite adaptations. Almost forgotten what they were for a second.
Trust.
They're pretty, standard. Shawshank Redemption, obviously, that's a lot of people's. The Green Mile, probably Stand By Me's a really good one. They're all Stephen King.
Yeah.
All three of those.
Fucking Stephen King.
Fuck, dude.
He's got like all the fucking book adaptation films.
They're pretty good though.
Yeah.
What else? I can't even think of anymore. There's got to be some more.
In what? Wasn't The Shining
Where's my phone?
adaptation?
My phone. I've got a list of some of my favorite movies, and then I can get my favorite adaptations.
Yeah.
The Shining was yeah. I haven't seen The Shining, which is crazy because.
Fucking hell.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. One book adaptation that sort of really didn't deserve a movie was Ready Player One. I don't feel that was a very good. Like, it was an okay film, but like,
Wasn't good enough.
no, it's like the problem is you could tell where they got their funding from, and it was literally just all it had to go on was, look, there's a reference, and that's it. Like, okay, that's good and all, but yeah, like that's not gonna carry you. That's not gonna carry you at all. Like, what they had. Honestly, like I'm thinking like video game terms. There's so many varied characters, right? And they would have had to go to a lot of fucking people to get licensing or permission to use characters, like the intellectual property. Like there was fucking Iron Giant. There was like Master Chief, Elites, Halo. But then there was the one character that I saw at least 3 fucking times, and that was Tracer from Overwatch, and I'm like, why did you need to throw her in 3 times? Is it because you got a bucket of money from Blizzard so that you could show off this one character? Like, fucking hell. Plus, she's not the only character from Overwatch. Like, Jesus Christ, she's like the token. She's like the title character, the big name character, yeah. But she's not the only fucking character, and she's not the best character either. Like, there's so many varied characters in that game that they could have thrown any of them into that film, and it would have been better than just have Tracer 3 times.
That's what they do, though. The movie makers don't know the game, usually. If, like, someone's making a movie adaptation to a game, like, usually 90% of the time the person who's directing the film will have no fucking clue what they're adapting, and then they'll just into a movie.
Yeah, but video game movies have always been, like, terrible.
Yeah.
Like, what? The most recent one that I sort of saw was the Assassin's Creed one with, I think it was Michael Fassbender. Like, Fassbender's a good actor when he's got the right stuff, but that was a fucking abysmal movie. Like, the idea behind the stuff that you can get out of a video game to put into a movie is good. Like, you can have some really brilliant ideas that are explored in video games that you can then explore in another visual medium, like a movie. But the execution of them is always fucking terrible. Like,
Did you see Warcraft?
No, I haven't seen Warcraft.
Oh my god, what is that?
Yeah, I've seen a few reviews for it, and it does seem like it's just another one of those ones that you throw on the video game terrible movie pile.
It's for the bandwagon of people who really like World of Warcraft. I mean, you've got to be a huge World of Warcraft fan to enjoy it, I think. But listen to this shit next door. Sorry, one sec. We've got some people working on a house next door, so that's completely fucking our audio. Anyway,
shit.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, another one of my favorite adaptations. That is so fucking loud. Another one of my favorite adaptations is Goosebumps, the movie they came out with a few years ago. Not the second one that recently came out. That was like so-so. I mean, I haven't really got the chance to see it yet, but I've heard that it's so-so. The first Goosebumps, really fucking good. Really good. Exceeded my expectations by miles. I thought it was gonna be awful. And yeah, because I followed the books when I was younger, and the TV show, all that stuff, and that is fucking so loud.
Yeah. I mean, what's another good adaptation that I remember? I don't remember a whole lot.
It.
It. Yeah, but I mean, like, it has actually become such a cultural thing that to fuck it up would be like actually blasphemic, pretty much.
The Lion King's an adaptation? What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's an adaptation of like, it's an adaptation. That's a whole like other story. Apparently, like Disney pretty much stole this like idea from a children's story that's basically just the Lion King with a different cast.
Yeah.
Either way, that's like a story for another day, and I'm pretty sure like 1,001 people have already talked about it.
I just found something that's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in the cinema.
Yeah.
The Golden Compass. So
Which
shit.
one was that? Was that the one?
It's this. It's
Oh, that one, yeah. I kind of enjoyed the idea of the compass, but the rest of it was just like really, really off.
I hated it. It was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I mean,
so dull, so shit. Everything about it I hated.
The idea of the compass, pointing to...
Oh, the idea's good. That's because it's an adaptation of a book, I think.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The idea, when it's adapted, is always good because it's not having to be built up from the ground. Like, it's already there. But the way that it's been executed, like, changed from a book, which is a literary medium, to a visual medium such as a film, is always really off. Like, that's one of the things. Okay, so Mortal Engines is coming out, right? And one of the characters is meant to be one of the main female lead, right, is meant to be disfigured. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's meant to have like this great scar across her face, and aside from that, it's implied. No, actually, I'm pretty sure it's explicitly stated at one point that she was not the most attractive person even before she got the scar, right? But I'm pretty sure they've cast an attractive actor for the role, right? Mm-hmm. And like, to a certain degree, you have to do that because it is a visual medium, and you're not gonna really want to watch a main that's ugly as fuck, right? But to a certain extent, that is a bit unfaithful. That's really unfaithful to the original version.
Oh yeah.
Because the idea was that the two main characters fall in love despite the fact that one of them's not very attractive, right? And is quite disfigured, yeah? And it's meant to be the story that it's not really what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside, because this main character is a bit sort of the female lead is a bit nasty, but she's got a heart of gold, and she was a really charming character in the first book, I thought. But if they're just gonna make her attractive on the outside as well, like that's really like they fucking did that with Ready Player One. Like what when they're in the Matrix or wherever the fuck is it, the Oasis, the female lead's like, oh, you don't know, you don't want to you don't want to see what I look like in real life because I'm ugly or whatever. She's fucking attractive as fuck, and the only detractor is a small birthmark that she can probably hide with her hair. Like, what the fuck is this? That's not how it works. You can't just say that someone is meant to be ugly and have it sort of be, right? You have to show it. It's a visual medium. It's a movie. You have to show that they're ugly, right? And that's a bit annoying. Like,
they can't do that.
They can't do that
because they have to have all these attractive people that are marketable for the movie.
And yeah, that's a bit of a problem. It's like
like
corporate Hollywood is never going to be able to disentangle itself from creative Hollywood. Yeah.
Is this the chick?
Huh?
Is it the chick that's meant to be ugly?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
She's a supermodel.
Olivia Cook. She played the main female lead in Ready Player One.
She's like the hottest girl.
She's not ugly. I don't fucking understand. They were hyping. I was not expecting someone like that to come out the other end to be on the other side of that character, right? You can't do that.
Oh my god.
You
she's
can't
actually
fucking
gorgeous.
do that.
She's completely. This is a joke. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they balked it. Like, they could have had.
Oh.
Yeah, she's not fucking.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
she's
supermodel.
Yeah, she's not unattractive, and that's a bit annoying because at that point they're being unfaithful to, and they're also kind of taking the piss out of the audience. Like they're having to dumb themselves down and pretty themselves up so that they can appeal to the widest range of people. And I get that that movies are a money making medium. Like, yeah, okay, you gotta raise some revenue, but you shouldn't have to sacrifice artistry or faith or like the original version, parts of the original version to get that. Like, what's another one that they did that to? I can't fucking remember.
I forgot what. See, I can't think of any really bad adaptations. Like, I don't think I've seen any.
Aside from your regular video game movies.
Yeah, they were so I've seen a lot that were disappointing. I can't think of it right now. I'm like, God, my brain's just gone a mess.
I mean, for the most part, a lot of movies are just adaptations when you think about it. Like, one of the best adaptations I've seen, though, like, we talk about the bad ones. We've talked about a lot of the bad ones. One of the really good ones that I did enjoy was The Book Thief. The Book Thief was fucking awesome. Like, the book, the original novel, was like really charming, and it had this fantastic narration. Like, it wasn't narrated by the main girl that you like watch. It was narrated by a personification of death, yeah, which was really fucking interesting. Like, it was this like omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient character that saw everything that was going on and just sort of narrated over the parts that they needed to. It was really interesting.
Rotten Tomatoes is so shit. Sorry, Rotten Tomatoes 46%.
Like, get fucked. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed it, and there was like a really tense scene, yeah, where the main girl, I think her brother dies, right? And that's sort of the idea, the catalyst for the death character.
Spoiler.
No, it's old. What? It's 2013. It's a 2013 movie. So it's like, look, the main character's like brother. This happens in the start of the film.
Oh.
It's hardly a spoiler.
Spoiler.
Oh my god. So the main character's like brother dies, and then it follows this main character, and the idea is that she lives in Nazi Germany, but she lives with a Jewish family. But they're not quite Jewish. They're the kind of Jews that followed along really closely with what the Nazis did. Like they were Jewish, but they weren't practicing Jews, right? Like they had Jewish heritage, but they didn't do the Sabbath or anything. I don't think they didn't celebrate all the because they couldn't, or else they'd be persecuted and sent to the camps, right? But there's this really like powerful scene, I reckon, where the girl's adoptive father, gets conscripted into fight in the war, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just like this girl has had pretty much nothing her entire life. Like the most enjoyment she ever got was this old man. He's like 80 or something in the story, right? Teaching her how to read and write using books that were stolen from the fire piles that they used to make, where they just burn every like book that they could find. And that was really interesting. Like it was this sort of semi-historically accurate, because they did burn the books, and like I'm sure one or two people stole one, but they basically got like the books, but then like this man was fucking like infirm, like he could hardly walk up and down the stairs into like his basement or whatever, and he was conscripted to fight. And it wasn't just because he had to be conscripted, it was because he was Jewish. And like you could tell that the officer that came around to conscript him he knew that, and he was like, no, you got to do it or else you face persecution. And it's like, oh shit. He comes back, and then it's like, but like you can tell where it happens, because it's like it's just a really good adaptation. I don't understand why a lot of people fucked on it, like on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, because they probably didn't understand it. The thing is, like, I watched it after reading the book, and it's like, oh, that's a really good adaptation of the book. But I assume a lot of people just went and saw it straight off without having read the book, and they didn't understand what was going on, yeah? And that's a bit disappointing. Like, I mean, it wasn't a masterpiece, but it was very good. I enjoyed it. I mean, I cried because it was sad. The ending was fucking sad, dude. Like, holy shit, that. Like, I cried once when I was reading the book, yeah? And then it was so good that I cried during the movie, even though I knew it was coming.
Oh, that's good.
Like, it was that well executed that it got me a second time, even though I was fully expecting it.
Oh, there's a movie that... I'm not sure if this is an adaptation. There's a movie that maybe sort of... I don't know if I was crying. I don't know. It was like... I was like, fucking... It made me pretty emotional. Dead Poets Society. It's a fucking powerful movie. Definitely, I recommend that movie. I don't think that's an adaptation, but... My God, what a great movie. It's like one of my favourite movies of all time now. It's just worth watching, really. It's just such a great film.
Anyway. It's just like, it's difficult because you do have to appease the shareholders, and there are people that are putting money into a project.
You really don't.
There are people putting money into a project with their faith that you're going to be able to deliver some money back when the time comes.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, then you've lost your reputation as a filmmaker, right? So if you don't appease certain people, you might not get that chance again. So sometimes they have to, and of course there are parts where bits that are in a book won't mesh properly with the I'm sure.
That's why fuck making an adaptation, because how are you supposed to get everything right? How you can't please
You-
everyone with an adaptation.
You can't please everyone with an adaptation, of course, because there's always going to be people who are like diehard fans of the book, and people who are diehard fans of the movies who don't enjoy the way that the other worked, right? Like I'm sure there are people who, going back to our last episode, who love the Harry Potter films, but don't quite enjoy the way that the books were paced or the books were laid out, right? Even though they were rather faithful to their roots, I suppose.
Well, they were really faithful because they were like, the books are so popular, and the filmmakers who did adaptations of the books did such a great job, except Mike Newell in The Goblet of Fire.
Goblet of Fire was abysmal. I think it's one of the worst.
It's not bad. It's not a bad movie at all. It's not.
Well,
It's
I
just
don't
the
know.
weakest
I
of
just,
all the
I
Harry
just,
Potters.
I just kind of enjoyed it because David Tennant.
Yeah, well, I don't know why you just said. Why did you just say it was abysmal? Abysmal.
The rest of it was a bit annoying. Like
Baby Geniuses is abysmal.
oh mate, come. What are you just looking at the search for the worst list?
No.
Yeah, whatever. No,
What the fuck?
oh my god! Look, we had a huge rant about Harry Potter the last time, and most of it was cut because this guy doesn't know how to edit, and most of it was cut because the sound card and the microphone we were using was
Most of it,
was
like
full.
5 minutes or less.
no 20 minutes.
No.
Most of the time that I was holding the mic was lost, right?
No, it wasn't. It's still on the thing. I put it all together, boy. I know which was lost and what wasn't.
Oh my god!
fucking
Look,
wasn't.
okay, I'm pretty sure I made some points that I didn't hear in the final render. You know,
It was all unedited audio, just chunked together.
I'm pretty sure there was no. You remember there was parts that we missed because the card filled, right?
Yeah, there's like that was
so
about
there were
5 minutes or 4
but
minutes.
there was assertions that I made in there that would have been pertinent to the conversation. It's just sucks that part was lost, right?
Still would have made a difference because Harry Potter's superior to you.
Oh fuck right off! Look, okay, the deal is I don't have a vendetta against Harry Potter. I just don't think it really should have hit the highs that it has.
Well, you got to understand though that some of the Harry Potter movies are fucking so good. Like Order of the Phoenix is fucking amazing.
Yeah, but I mean that's like what the best one, right?
Have you seen it?
Not really.
The best one is Prisoner of Azkaban. It's amazing. It's so well done. It's actually just the way it was put together by the director Alfonso Cuarón. Just if anyone listening has never seen Prisoner of Azkaban, fuck me, you gotta watch it. It's so good. It's just the greatest thing ever.
I'm sure there are better films, right?
Shut up!
Look,
No,
okay.
there's not.
There is.
Well, the way you say it like that is like it's nothing. Like, dude,
It's not nothing, but it's just not. It's just not everything.
Prisoner of Azkaban is a really, really good.
Well, like
movie.
I know people that have basically devoted themselves to the Harry Potter like fandom, and that's also another topic. Fandoms and like how toxic and like really, really terrible they can be. But
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that a lot recently with a lot of
problem
things.
is, some things just get lost. Like when you're making a film, you have to abide by some certain restrictions. Like time. Time is a very big deal because you don't want to be having a 4-hour film where people have to get up and like piss halfway through it, you know, because that's not good. That's not good. And if it's 4 hours, it's gonna drone because 4 hours is a long time to fill with random shit, you know. And if it's just 4 hours of random shit, people are gonna get bored. So you have to have an engaging film, and that's a problem for some people because when they come up with stuff, it may be engaging for them and it may be engaging for the shareholders, and the shareholders go, okay, we'll greenlight this, we'll give you the millions that you need to pull it off. But then it turns out the general public doesn't enjoy it, and they're just like, why the fuck did you drop 25-30 million into something that no one really wanted? like maybe a niche wanted. Like, I don't know what weren't they convinced that horror was dying for a long time? Most of the horror films that have come out recently are just really shit. Like, can we be real for Hollywood? Stop with the fucking jump scares. Jump scares are the laziest, lowest form of like trying to elicit terror or like fright from someone when it just doesn't need to be done. Like, fucking, you know it's coming too, because there's always like a knock or something. Oh my god, there's a knock at the door.
Crimes of Grindelwald had a jump scare.
Oh my fucking god.
That was just like, I mean, I didn't really care about it. I was like, whatever. But it was.
But
still
if it's a jump scare in real life, like if it's something jumping out at you, right, out of the darkness, and it shrieks, you can sort of give that a pass.
Yeah.
But if it's just something jumping out at you, or jumping out at the camera, if it's not even jumping out at a main character, if it's just jumping out at the camera, and there's a scare chord like a piano or whatever, that's fucking egregious, and it doesn't need to exist, because that's just so lazy. Like, I've played video games that have frightened me more than than movies. Fucking Dead Space is so terrifying because it's atmospheric. Yeah, there's more to horror than gore, jump scares, and lots of fucking darkness. Like, you can have things that are scary, but aren't just scary. You can have things that are terrifying, like concepts, or maybe like the horror, the monster is like an eldritch thing that they can't quite perceive. Yeah, that's fucking scary. That's why, if any of you listening reads SCPs, yeah, that's why. Entries that use the redacted tags, the ones that where information has been lost, right? They put a thing that says data redacted or data expunged. That is not lazy. For certain entries, of course it is, and you can tell where they've basically just gone, I'm too lazy to like come up with something for this, so I'm just going to put an expunged tag here. That is not lazy, because the absence of something can be just as scary, if not scarier, than the presence of something, right?
Yeah, that's why Hitchcock was so great, because he was able to create atmosphere. And there's a movie called this is a perfect example of what you're talking about. There's a movie from the 60s. I think it's from 1960 actually, or maybe it's the 50s. I think it's from the 50s. It's called The Haunting. Yeah. Oh wow. Of course the remake comes up first, when it's just the shittest one ever. Anyway, 1963 is a movie about called The Haunting, and I think it's an adaptation of a book. I'm not sure though. And it's a horror movie all about creating atmosphere and just getting the viewer really tense, but to no jump scares. Obviously, it's just we're building up tension, and then like the slightest things are happening, and it's hard to explain, but you got to kind of watch it. It's psychological horror, so it plays on your brain.
Kind. Like,
and then they did a remake. Sorry, they did a remake in 1999, which is jump scares, CGI monsters,
fuck off,
and it was just the shittest movie ever. And I've done a review of it. If you want to have a look on my channel, there's a review of The Haunting somewhere. So it's about 23 minutes long. It's from years ago, and it's got 10 dislikes because there are so many fans of The Haunting out there who actually like this,
vehemently defending it.
Yeah, defending this shit-ass jump scare piece of crap movie.
Look, jump scares are not bad on their own, yeah? They are a tool in the toolbox. But when it's your only tool, that's not right. Like, you need to have something else in there that you can use. Like what? Fucking, if you only have gore, jump scares, and darkness, that's not on. Like, sure, you can get away with it. I'm sure there are some films that have gotten away with it, right? But it doesn't fucking work. It doesn't win. Like, it works, but it doesn't win. and you're not going to get any huge accolades or whatever off it, right? Because it's just any old Joker can throw a jump scare into a film and call it scary, but it takes a real artist to avoid the jump scare and go for something a bit deeper, that's something a little bit more terrifying. Like, I think a really good idea for a horror film, right, is something that doesn't actually ever appear, right? So the monster, you don't get to see the fucking monster.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like-
what? They came up with a Slender Man film, yeah? That's
That looks-
not scary.
looks
That's
so
not scary.
stupid.
Everyone and their fucking mother has dug into the idea of the Slender Man since they were like 4 or 5 years too late before the Slender Man 8 pages game, right?
8%, 3.2 out of 10.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all
What
by
the
that rating.
fuck? That's awful.
It's a terrible movie because they went with a concept that isn't scary anymore. Because it's been explained. Well, explained as far as it can because it's not real. But the thing is, everyone, like, there are laws, there are pictures, there are games of this fucker. And they decide to come up with a movie on it to try and capitalize on it. It's already been capitalized on. It's not scary anymore. That's the problem. And they just made it super dark. There's jump scares and there's a bit of like gore body horror. It's like, come on. Have some artistry. Like, actually give a damn about what you're making. Because if you give a damn, people will give a damn. Like, if you just throw up some like shit and expect it to get like reviews and whatever, you can just fuck right off because no one wants that. If you didn't care about making it, well, how can you expect anyone to care about watching it?
Yeah, fair enough.
Like,
Yeah.
what's a good one? I haven't watched a lot of horror films. I don't quite watch them. Yeah,
I mean,
Well,
I
that's
can
because-
watch
that's
them, but I
because
hate
most
them.
of them only sort of really work when you watch them as unintentional comedies because they're just shit.
Yeah.
Like, what, the first few Saw films were great, and then they just started taking the piss with like Jigsaw was still alive at this point even though he died like 3 movies ago. What the fuck? No, you can't do that. You can't just retcon it to death. Yeah. What, another one, Alien. Yeah, you can't. Alien the Covenant, right, was basically just body horror and like darkness, right? You can't just throw the alien in something and expect it to be scary. There's games, there's other movies that have done it better, there's books. I'm pretty sure there's books about the alien, right? The alien isn't scary anymore. It's been explained. Like in the first one, it just came out of nowhere. No one knew what the alien was, and it was this monstrous thing that sort of just hunted people down and fucked them up. Now it's not scary anymore. You can't make another Alien movie because it's not fucking scary. What's another one? Yeah, as I said, I don't watch a lot of horror films because they're all just drag. Nowadays, I can't. One that I did hear about was The Cure for Wellness, or the Cure for Happiness or something. It's basically just body horror,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, there's a difference between being horrified, being like terrifying and frightening, and just being plain out disgusting. Like, some of the stuff that they did in the Cure for Wellness is disgusting.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I suppose that like getting your audience to squirm in disgust and like horror and whatever is an element of trying to frighten them, but it can't be the be all to end all. You can't just. What did they do? I think at one point they shoved eels down this guy's throat or whatever. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
But it's not quite horrifying. Well, no, actually, I take that back. It is horrifying as a concept, but the execution, the way that it was shown, is like, okay, weird. That's really gross. Can you just change the scene, please? Why are you harping on this scene? I don't want to keep going. Like, honestly, I'm pretty sure I would have if I had have paid like less than $10 to see the movie, I would have gotten up at that point and left. I haven't seen the movie because I don't give a shit about it. But it's like, don't take the piss out of your audience. If you're just gonna try and squeam them out with like a body horror show reel, then yeah, you're not gonna get my money at the box office, mate. That's not how this is gonna work. Yeah, it's difficult because horror is one of those things that just doesn't really. You can't get it. You can't be just some regular bozo and get it right. Like any old wanker can throw together like an action film where the guys have guns and they shoot at each other and there's like a damsel in distress or something. But it takes more artistry than normal to come up with an actually frightening horror film, right?
Yeah.
And that's a problem because that's effort and people don't want to put in effort in Hollywood. And that's another thing. Like what? In the game industry, video games, they've been trying to tell us that horror's dead because, you know, all the latest horror games haven't been like good. Mate, what? And then so like the horror's dead. Then Outlast comes along. Then Resident Evil 7 comes along. Then fucking and they were horrifying. They were tense. They were atmospheric. They did have jump scares and body horror, and they did have a lot of darkness, but it wasn't just rammed down your throat. It was really fucking scary. Like Outlast was frightening from just like a conceptual point of view. Like there was some dark, dire shit in there that just really dug right into you and was just like, oh shit, I don't like that. I don't like that. And you just felt like really creeped out by the entire idea, yeah? And then in what's it called? Resident Evil, there was disgusting shit everywhere and like everyone was like demonic and there was all this random like the main enemies were unstoppable. Like you could chop them to bits and they'd still get the fuck up and come at you. Like literally at one point I think you like take the top half of one of the main enemies off. Like literally just leave him as a fucking like pair of legs. And the legs still get up. But they drop down a bit afterwards. But that's meant to highlight the fact that this is something you can't just stop with guns or by ramming it over with a car or by chopping it in half with a chainsaw. And that's also really scary. This like indefatigable monstrosity that won't ever stop before it gets to you, and you can't stop it getting to you. Like it'll just hunt you down forever. And I think that's what they did in It Follows, the movie It Follows, where the monster, you can like shoot it and stuff, but it's never gonna stop coming for you. Like it'll always be somewhere wandering towards you, and that's fucking scary, dude. Like I'm pretty sure in one of the scenes they shoot it dead, and then the next scene it's up again as someone else following them, and that's like, fuck, that's some like terrifying shit. And then of course people are like, ooh, what the fuck is going on with this like shot in the like the first shot, the like long take where the woman's running around the camera. That's an interesting shot. And no one gets it because it's meant to be like, oh, she's running from the invisible thing that you can't fucking see because you're not her. Yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. I haven't seen it properly, but everything that I have seen of it seems to be good. I need to get a drink because I've been talking for how long?
That's all good. You can go get a drink and
You
I haven't been talking at all,
yeah.
so...
This is the opposite of what happened in the last episode where Sam talked the entire time and I said nothing. Now it's his turn to talk.
Okay. Oh, shit. Fucking mic in front of me. Oh, fuck. I don't even know. So, well, what was I thinking of before that I was going to say? Fucking about movies. My brain's just gone completely fucking awry. It was a movie that I saw recently. I'm just thinking. Oh, yeah, well, I was just going to say there's not really many horror movies I think I've ever seen. Usually just watch reviews for horror movies. Don't actually watch horror movies at all. I just don't enjoy them. Probably comedies and just action. Just, I don't know, movies where there's like a wise old sage just people that are wise, and just when there's someone who has to figure something out, they're probably more interesting for me. And comedies are great, but love stories are alright when they're fun.
Romance.
They're okay, but like romance mixed with action, just general romance and nothing else is just so boring for me.
Excuse me.
I can't.
You obviously haven't seen any really good ones. Like,
What, me before you?
I haven't seen that one. I don't know.
Oh, it was one my friends told me about that. It was just. Oh,
I think I do remember watching a really, really good romantic comedies are good, right? No, what you said, yeah, just straight romance like pieces. Yeah, all right, sure. But if it's mixed with something else like an action romance, a romantic comedy, a dramatic romance, those are where the shit really shines. Because when the romance has something else to play off, when it's not the be all to end all of it's not like everything that the movie focuses on or the piece focuses on, and it can sort of supplement itself with something else going on. That's when you get the best stuff, right? Yeah, like what's a really good one? What's a really, really good one that I saw? I am picturing one that I can't remember the name of.
Body Melt.
Shit, fuck off. I don't know what that is.
No, not Body Melt. What was it called again? Dead. Was it Brain Dead? I was a Peter Jackson's first movies. It's not even a romance. It's the most disgusting horror movie you could ever see. It's a horror romance, and it's like gross as.
I think your dad was telling me about Warm Bodies.
Nah, Warm Bodies. Oh my god.
That sounds funny though.
That's a vampire stupid romance.
Oh fuck vampires though. They're not scary either.
Oh, what have I done? Peter Jackson
What's
films.
another one? Shit, I
Jackson
cannot remember this film, but it was really good. It was really fucking good. Not just because it had this like extra element to it that the romance could supplement itself off, but because the romance was really good. Like, sure, you can have an action romance where the action's really good, but if the romance is also like terrible, the actors or the characters have no chemistry, you failed for half of your movie. If you classify it as an action romance and you only have good action, well, you've only really got half of your movie there, right? No, I need to I'm an animator, so I sort of generally stick to animated films. I really do enjoy animated films because of some of the stuff they can come up with. One that was really fucking good was I think it was
Stitch has a glitch.
Fucking hell. No, it was an animated film called Jinro, the wolf or something. And it was this really dark noir sort of military themed one, where a guy in like this elite squad of like the Japanese self-defense force or whatever had to go undercover in like a terrorist syndicate to try and figure out what they were doing, right? And he falls in love with one of the women, one of the bomb carriers, right? And at one point he sort of directly contemplates giving up his entire job, basically going rogue and deserting his country, right? Like his job, which is like he was meant to be part of like this super secret group of like auditors or like watchmen, where they sort of in every level of government, in every sort of like big corporation, there was one of them in there, and they sort of had this great power, but no one knew who they were, and they were like hidden within the group. So anyone could be one of these people, and one of these guys, and he directly contemplates leaving this group for this woman, but at the end he ends up killing her, and it's just like he's forced to kill her. Like, he doesn't want to, but he has to do it for his like job. Like he's directly told by his superior that if he doesn't do it, his like superior officer will, and he's like, shit, I can't do that. And it's a really powerful romance like thing, yeah, because they have this chemistry, right? But it's also a really good action film. Like, the animation in it is fan-fucking-tastic. And some of the shots that they have are so atmospheric. Like, the final fight scene where all the, like, terrorists are down in the underground, yeah? Like, they're in the sewers or whatever, and they're running around trying to escape from this guy. He's got armor on. He's got a fucking MG42 in his hand, walking around with, like, a weapon that should be mounted on a tripod. Like pretty much an anti-aircraft gun. He's walking around with this fucking huge gun, hunting them down. He's in this armor. He's got the red eyes. The idea of that shot, of that whole entire scene, is to confuse the viewer. Because at that point, you don't know who is worse. You don't know whether the main character that you've been following becomes sympathetic with, but all of a sudden is this monster, this murdering machine that doesn't speak, doesn't have any sympathy, and just, as soon as he finds the guys, he guns them down. Or the terrorists, who are nasty people throughout the rest of the film, blowing people up and, like, dropping buildings, but they are fucking terrified. Like, they're running for their lives. They're trying to shoot this guy down, but he's covered in armor, so the bullets are, like, ricocheting, and they're just, like, there's a shot where, like, 4 of them opening fire with, like, Tommy guns and PPSHs, I think, and all the bullets ricochet off the guy's armor. That's a really cool little sequence as well, like where it ricochets and the sparks come out and it lights up slightly. She's like gives him this, like, really tonally scary look, like he's impervious. Yeah. He's the indefatigable monster that will hunt you down no matter where you are and kill you. And the terror that the animators managed to show on the terrorists' faces, the sheer, like, oh shit, this is the end, is like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It's one, like, just trying to remember it now is like, fuck, it's one of my favorite films, and it's this animated thing. It's got this, like, it's got a really old aspect ratio because it's an old film.
4:3. 4:3
I think it's
with the black on the
I think it's 4:3.
Yeah.
The dubbing isn't. I watched the dub. The dubbing isn't fantastic, but the subtitles on the version that I could find with subtitles wasn't fantastic either. So I kind of just went with the dub because, you know, it's easier to listen to it as opposed to having to take your eyes away from the action to read something on the bottom of the site, kind of distracting. And it was just a fantastic film. Like, people...
I was going to say, sorry, it reminds me of the Terminator, but an animated version.
An animated version of the Terminator would be really cool. Yeah. Because, there are things that you can do with animation that you just can't do with live action. And sure, like, you get CG films like the Transformers where you have to supplement the live action with CG, right? Or sometimes you can't create a practical version of the monster in the live action, so you need a spaceship shot, or you need a fucking CG is a tool. You can use it, and you can supplement it with like the live action, or you can use it to supplement the live action. But when you get, like, a purely animated film, and the animators are, like, interested and, like, really enjoy doing what they're doing, and they come out with something beautiful like Jinro, is fucking awesome. And I will say to the end of my fucking days that a good animated film will always be superior to a bad animated film. Actually, no, I can't say a bad animated film because you get Drek, like, fucking, what, A Car's Life, or the... oh my god, some of that shit. A good animated film will always be better than a comparable live action film.
Yeah.
Because just thinking about it from the romance aspect, if you get 2 actors who are supposed to be in a romantic relationship in the film, but the actors don't have any chemistry, that fucking kills it, right? But if you have an animated romance where the 2 characters, they're not actually actors, there's no restriction to that. There's no possibility of them having bad chemistry, because you can make it look like they do. And that's really powerful, because I don't know how many fucking films I've lost because I've just given up on because the characters have like terrible chemistry or they just don't give a shit.
Yeah, me too.
But like, yeah, because that kills it. Because if they're not giving a shit, why should I give a shit? But that brings me back to another thing I was talking about to you last night. I like the Transformers, yeah, and like talking about people that don't give a shit. What's his name? I think it was George Orwell. Did the voice of Unicron in the first animated film. He was bored as fuck and he didn't give a shit about the character, but that worked for the character. It was so good. Yeah. Like, to some degree, you can sort of give that up because he was dying. He died like 3 or so days after he finished recording his lines.
How long ago was this?
Oh, old times, dude.
1950 he died.
Holy shit, Transformers isn't that old, is it?
No, he died in 1950, so I guess
okay,
he
must not have been George Orwell. Sorry, I'm thinking 1984 George Orwell. It was another guy. Just look up Unicron voice.
Okay.
I'll recognize the name as soon as I hear it. Of course I will. He's got a very good voice. He did the broadcast of the original War of the Worlds that like got a load of people like fucking scared about being invaded.
Oh, that's Orson Welles.
Orson Welles. Sorry, I was thinking Orwell. You know, like Orson Welles. Fucking great. His performance as Unicron was terrible, but it worked. It worked so fucking well for the character, and for that reason, it's a good performance. Like, it can be salvaged. But when you have two characters that don't give a shit about each other, don't give a shit about the story. No, they could give a shit about the story, but they just don't like the person that they're meant to like in the thing. They don't mesh well with them. They don't play off them well, right? When it's clear that they're just delivering lines as opposed to speaking as a character, you don't care. Like, it brings you out of it. But in an animated film, the actors have to give their all in the voice, right? Because they don't quite know how the final thing will look.
Yeah.
Because to a certain extent, you can have an animated film where they generate the film, they do like lip syncing, but they can't do it directly to the thing because they don't have a voice yet. Either they do the voice first and sync up the lips to the voice, or they do the character first, do the voice, and then sync it up so that the voice actors have an idea of what the character's meant to look like and how they're sort of meant to act. That means that to a certain extent, they can't trust the animators to give because part of their performance isn't on them anymore. If you're a camera like live action actor, the performance is solely down to you. How you act, your demeanor, what you look like, and how you sound is solely down to you. But in an animated film where you're just the voice, how you act, what you look like, and your demeanor is on someone else. And to a certain extent, you can't trust that person to give a faithful rendition of that character. So you have to give your all as the voice. And that enhances the thing, because if the person who does all the other stuff is able to pull through and does their all for that, you have an amazing character that is just full of life, because everything shows off in the visuals, but then the emotion that comes through their voice, like how they're meant to portray themselves through their voice, also comes through. It's just like, oh, it's so rich. Like, it's just the way that animation can be used. It's like utility is so powerful in this like visual medium that it's like I would say I prefer animated films for this reason over live action films.
Fair, no,
because some of the stuff that you can get in an animated film, like some of the Studio Ghibli anime films, fucking top notch. And there's some other films that are animated that are like that are kind of bad. Like the Jimmy Neutron movie was not great, but it was a marvel because it was generated on a low budget using completely over-the-shelf, off-the-shelf products.
And it was one of the first of its kind.
And it was one of the first...
it was 3D.
It was one of the first
computer
feature-length, completely 3D rendered films, right?
Yeah, and it was like Toy Story and Jimmy Neutron were like the first ones.
Starters, right?
Yeah, Toy Story was way before Jimmy Neutron, but they were still like, yeah.
At that point, it was still a very difficult market because some of that stuff was like really, really hard to get right.
Oh yeah.
Because like to a certain extent, if you just supplemented a live action shot with 3D rendered CGI, you didn't have to worry about the rest of the shot. But in movies like Jimmy Neutron, where they had to render every single fucking thing that was in the frame, they had to care. They had to care what things looked like aesthetically. They had to care about the color palette. They had to care about everything. Yeah. And that's really quite astounding when you think about it, because like, yeah, it wasn't a good movie. Like, it was fun. I still enjoy it to this day, because like, I love the characters. I love the whole idea of this, like, of this thing. The adventure in it is really fun. The characters are fantastic. I love Sheen, I love Carl, I love Jimmy. They're just great characters, and like, to a certain extent you can have a go at them, like, or whatever, it's just another fucking Nickelodeon thing. But I'm still gutted that fucking Fairly Odd Parents still gets to live and Jimmy Neutron died.
Fairly Odd Parents.
Fucking fuck off, Fairly Odd Parents. That's some bullshit. Like, Jimmy Neutron deserves your spot. Jimmy Neutron shouldn't have died. Oh my god, I'm so mad. The Ant Bully. The best things that have...
I said the best shows have the shortest amount of seasons.
That is fucking right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite animated series is the original Teen Titans, right?
Yeah.
The original Teen Titans is so good. The animation is like decent, right? It's sort of like your generic superhero sort of looking animation. Some of the stuff that but it's the characters. The 5 Titans, and even the villains that come out in like all the things, they are interesting fucking characters. And some of the episodes are funny filler, right? Like the one where Robin gets blackmailed into going to prom with Mothra's daughter, so that Mothra doesn't, bomb the city with giant mutant moths. That's a funny episode. That's funny as fuck, right? But then you get your like story episodes with Slade, the one where Slade's dead, but he's left the gas inside his mask and it infects Robin, and he's basically killing himself from the inside because he thinks Slade is there, but he's not, and he's like beating himself up, like throwing himself off of like balustrade like stairs because he thinks that Slade punched him, and he's getting mad at the other Titans because they don't see him because he doesn't exist. He's like, there are bombs everywhere. Slade's put bombs, like tectonic bombs, all around the city. They go to try and find them, and there's nothing there. He's like, you haven't looked hard enough. He's getting mad. That's an interesting fucking episode because it's like, you know from before that Robin hates Slade and like absolutely wants to stop him, but he's not there. He's dead at this point. And it's like this really interesting character development moment because it shows that Robin is so dedicated to this cause of destroying Slade that he is willing to somewhat ruin his relationship with his friends.
Yeah.
Like, he gets mad at like Starfire and Raven and those guys because they're telling him that they don't see Slade, right? And then Raven goes inside Robin's head using her like astral projection, and she sees Slade, and she's like, holy shit, Slade isn't here, he's not real, but he's real to Robin. And that is like really interesting because I don't know, it's a fantastic thing. And I've heard stories that there's going to be a reboot of it. I cannot fucking wait. I cannot wait. They left it on a cliffhanger because there was like a final I can't remember what the final episode was for, but they left it on a cliffhanger. They basically like stopped. I think production like dried up. If they can bring the original Titans back and have it just as good as the original one, like the original series, fuck me, I will buy a Blu-ray set and I will watch it like 30 times because that is awesome. Like, the characters, it's not just an action show, right? Mm-hmm. The characters are so deep and rich that, oh my god, I love them. Like, fucking what? There's an episode where Cyborg is like really down and like bummed out about the fact that he used to push his limits as Steven Stone because he's like weightlifting and shit, and then he became Cyborg, and he like, you can't push a machine body Like, you can't push hydraulics past their limit or else they'll break.
Yeah.
So it's not like human muscle where you can sort of keep pushing through your limits. They have a hard limit. And he has a difficult time, like, resigning himself to that fact. Because he's like, he needs to push through these limits to, like, validate himself. And when his limits are hard built into his body and he can't push through them no matter how much will he has, that really depresses him. And it's like, shit, you can actually, like, sympathize with that idea. And, like, the first episode, the pilot or something, where they all meet up and they're all talking and shit, and, like, Beast Boy is like, why are you wearing a hoodie or something? And he's like, look, because I'm a monster, I'm disfigured. And he's like, he throws his hoodie down and he's got the, like, half his head's like robotic in it, and Beast Boy's just like, cool. And, like, Cyborg's like, wait, what the fuck? Hold on, you're not fucking, like, scared or anything? You're not, like grossed out? He's like, no, that's wicked. And it's just like, you could tell that Cyborg fully expected Beast Boy to be like, oh shit, I'm like, sorry dude, I didn't mean to be, like, insensitive. But Beast Boy's just like, nah dude, that's wicked as fuck. I love that, that's awesome. And he's surprised by it. And that's such an interesting character, like, dynamic, because, like, Beast Boy's so fucking goofy that he can't offend anyone. Like, he's just like he can't offend anyone when they want him to offend them. Like, I'm pretty sure Cyborg wanted him to offend him so that he could continue being sort of, like, mad and angsty. But he's just like, wait, what the fuck? Hold on. What? Hold on. It's just really fucking interesting. Sorry, I've been talking for forever. I'm going to turn the mic towards Sam this time. He's going to talk.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm just going to reiterate that I agree with all your points and that they're good points. And this is meant to be the roast podcast. And instead, you're just talking about insightful stuff. And it's just, there's no roasting. There's just, like, good shit that we talk about. But no, I like it when we delve a bit deep into this stuff, because there's so many, like, people that be listening to this who are just like, fuck yeah, I've been waiting for someone to talk about this. Like, or they're looking for someone to talk about the same nuances and stuff to do with their favorite animated shows that you're talking about. So I probably got to put in the title of this video something to do with animation. Yeah. But I don't really have much more to talk about. I think you've just spilled your guts, haven't you?
More or less. We haven't recorded an episode for
a
couple weeks now, and we needed to get something down. And it's like, I've had this backlog. Like, I keep seeing the at the very start, an hour ago. Yeah. Kept seeing, like, ads for Mortal Engines, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about, movie adaptations and all that. And then it's sort of just like, I've just rolled with this, like, topic, and I've just talked to it. It's interesting as fuck.
There's another topic I want to do in the future that I want to briefly cover before we go today. Now that's guilty pleasure movies. So
yes.
this is one that film. Now some people, whenever I've talked to people about this, some people's guilty pleasures are, they're fucking dreadful. Yeah. Like, they're really bad movies. But, like, you know, there's a guilty pleasure that I want to talk about in the future, but I'll just briefly mention it now because I saw it when I looked into Netflix. There's a film called 17 Again with Zac Efron.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, and it's a blatant Back to the Future rip-off, sort of. But it's like a modern day Back to the Future. And I was like, when it came on TV, I was like, oh god, here we go. And then there's, like, the scene where he travels back in time. It's like, this is the dumbest movie, like, looking at it. And then watching the whole movie, I was like, fuck, you know. I
actually kind of enjoyed that.
I really enjoyed that movie, but so many parts are just so dumb, but I didn't even care. I was able to look past it so easily because I just love the concept of it. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, there's an example of a guilty pleasure. I can't think of any others, though, that are guilty pleasures.
I've got, like, 2 or 3 guilty pleasures. But we should probably save that for the
next episode. That for the next episode, and we're going to leave you guys for this episode. So thank you very much for watching. And did you just press stop?
No.
I thought you pressed stop prematurely. Right. Anyway, this has been the Roast Podcast Episode 3. I'm Sam. And
I'm Adam. And thank you for listening to me rant for an hour.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Bye.